Meeting to order. Call the roll.
Kinsey.
Here.
Logsdon.
Here.
Mossberg.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Next item, recognition of the visitors, and we've got Eric and Tyson and Brandon and Terry and the Stanzas and April and Joe Don. And Marion from the newspaper. Next, item number 4, consideration and action to approve minutes of January 8th, 2018. I noticed 2 or 3 things myself. It said that I called the meeting to order, and then 2 lines down from that it says that I was absent.
That's all I noticed as well. With those considerations corrected, I move we approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Paul got it.
Paul,
in there, yeah.
let's call the roll.
The soft voice.
Parker.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Mossberg.
Yes.
Logsdon.
Yes. Next we'll go on to item number 5, reports. City Council report.
Well, I'll report that the City Council has scheduled its annual budget retreat for March 3rd. Of course, any of our boards and commission members are going to be invited to attend. Where are we doing that, Gerald?
We'll be doing it at the Technology Center, probably in the multimedia room.
Okay. And it's usually about a 4 or 5 hour deal. We start in the morning and make it just a little ways through lunch. But look at all the funding priorities from all the different departments of the city, and obviously the airport's part of that, all the budget considerations, and out of that meeting we move forward with the budget. Joe Don gets it all prepared to submit for this board to review and approve, and go from there. Not really city council report, but I will also let you guys know that just got off the phone with Lance Harsman and the signs for the highway. He's going to have a draft or a graphic design for me to that he's going to send to me, and I'll go ahead and send it out to Joe Don to pass on to the rest of you. But it's just a proof before he goes to production. So it'll be what we asked him to be, and once we give him the authorization to move forward, he's going to do that. We may see them by the time we meet again. Anything else, City Council-wise, Joe Don, you can think of?
Not that I can think of right now.
Happy to try to answer any questions.
No questions? No, we'll go on to the next item, manager's report.
Well, Greg is absent today. He called me yesterday with the flu. I didn't figure anybody else wanted it, so I told him to stay home. Kind of hit some of the highlights of the February 2018 manager's report, and then the 2% you replaced before you got here. Looks like total amount of fuel sold in January was 3,152 gallons. Total sales of total fuel sales of $11,476. Then there was the internally lit windsock was installed. There was some shingles blown off the roof during the high winds, and the Pappy and Sons was contacted to come out and see what needed to be done to repair those. And see, there was, I guess the new OAC commissioner is going to be Lynn Ritz. And that's about all that I've got here that I think are think is pertinent for this meeting. I probably cannot answer any questions that you have, but I would be glad to take down the questions that you have and get back with you with the answer, if you would like.
I have one.
Okay?
Why don't we have the lights, why aren't the lights turned on the new hangars?
Why are the lights not turned on the new hangar? I'm just going to assume OG&E hadn't finished the installation process and getting them hooked up.
What I don't understand is the poles and lights have been there for 2 months, and yet they're not turned on. But the guys with the new hangars, their lights are on.
But
And it didn't take 2 months to get their lights on.
I can't,
Has anybody asked them?
I did not know before now that the lights were not on, so no, I have not asked them. But I know that's an OG&E thing, we don't control OG&E.
Well, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I would hope that they would give you some reason why they're not. 60 days or longer, to me, is unacceptable. I mean, do you agree or disagree?
Well, I mean, I don't understand why there wouldn't be one. I don't know why, there could be a lot of different reasons why the lights are not on. I do not know why they are not on. I will find out and get back with you.
I understand that,
Yeah.
But would somebody call OG&E and ask them
Yeah.
to give us some ETA
Yes.
when we might expect that?
Yes, I will get a hold of OG&E and get back with you on an answer.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments about the manager's report? If not, we'll go on to the next item, item 6, presentation of Airport Commission Manual.
We tabled this from last month, and we had Joe Don come back in and make sure that the airport policies were included in this. I'm going to kind of go through. Joe Don might jump in, from time to time, anything that I might skip over. It's as I mentioned last meeting, and have I think in leading up to this. The best practices handbook is a process we're going through with been a process that was started at the city council level for elected officials, and now it's a process we're going through for appointed officials to help make sure that everybody's, operating out of the same, playbook. The incentive that we have as a city is that there's some grant funding tied to our participation in this, and so by us implementing this across our boards and commissions with our appointed officials, it helps us achieve that grant funding. And aside from the grant funding, it's just a good idea that when we have board members, we also have a reference guide that we can go to for guidance and direction and information on what our rules and whatnot may be. I'm going to not go page by page through this, but if I skip something that you have questions on, by all means, stop me and we'll go through that.
Excuse me. What, are we gonna use both these or one of these or?
I assume the blue one has been updated.
Yes.
Okay,
The black one does not probably have the airport-specific policies in it.
so that's one we don't,
Right, you can leave it here and we'll take it back and recycle the binders.
okay, thank you.
There are, again, like I said, we're not going to go through this word for word, but I will draw your attention that throughout this there's sections, and in the beginning there's sections dealing with commission member accountability as well as management and staff accountability. I think as board members it's important for all of us to understand what our roles are and what we're responsible for, but also to have good understanding for what the staff's responsibilities are, and that's whether that's Greg or whether that's Joe Don or what have you. These are the responsibilities. As commission members, our primary, in a nutshell, our responsibility is set forth policies and approve the budgets, and that then determine how the staff will carry out the day-to-day operations. And like I said, that's the nutshell version of what our responsibilities are. We come in here to make rules and to approve budget items and do conduct business with regard to the property and that sort of thing. But the day-to-day operation is carried out by the staff. We go through here, you have a nice little letter from Mr. Dunham to all of the airport commission members, and then we have a few pages of history regarding the Alva Regional Airport. Of course, it's something that as time goes on, these things will be added to and whatnot. But Paul, I believe you were a good source of a lot of this information, you and your family, and so thank you for helping add that to the document. Information on meetings. Are there page numbers? I'm not seeing any.
No,
I don't see it.
Okay, well, if you get on past the history, you get to the information regarding the Open Meeting Act, open meeting and open records. As a body, you guys are well aware that any business that we conduct we have to conduct as a quorum, and if we conduct business outside of this meeting, we are in violation of all the open meeting requirements. That means we can't have 3 of us get together anywhere and talk about airport business unless we posted a meeting to do so with an agenda, and then we stick to that agenda. It doesn't mean that we can't all attend a basketball game for the home team or anything like that, but we can't get together in that venue or any other venues and discuss business that pertains to this board. Any of the things that we say in our meetings, any of the things that we provide reports on, all of those things are subject to review, and public can have access to those items. So it is important how we conduct our business, and that we don't put things out in front of the public that aren't public matters, and that we do make sure that the things that require transparency are done so in our public meetings. So we do have, and those of you that have been on this board know that we have opportunity to have executive sessions, and that's when we're dealing with items of real property or performance appraisals and that sort of thing, to which we can go and ask the public to leave. We can conduct our business, come back into open session, and then take any action that's required. You guys can read through the details of the act. We do also have in here information on conflict of interest and statutes. Generally speaking, we want to make sure that when we conduct business, we're not doing things that are going to benefit us as individuals specifically. Make sure that our interests in what we're doing as a body are shared interests of the whole board. That we're not going to, and if we have conflicts of interest, we need to disclose those so that we can abstain from votes or what have you in the event that something like that should occur. We want to avoid that, and I don't think that's anything that you wouldn't think makes perfect sense. And basically, we're not on this board for self-serving purposes. We're here to serve our community and our airport. We do have specific information from state statute in here regarding conflicts of interest and prohibited conduct. If you go on to the next page, a few pages, there is information about prohibited conduct. I'm not going to go through all that. Conflicts of interest, all those things are listed out there for reference to state statute on what we can and can't do. And there's also information on the roles and responsibilities for each of our positions on our board, chairman, secretary, the members, and what those people do during what circumstances. Okay, I'm going to skip through some more of this conflict of interest stuff. And the Oklahoma legislature, getting on to the next section, which has to do with training and building stability. Oklahoma legislature passed legislation requiring all elected officials to participate in municipal government training. And so we're basing this on similar premises. That, as commission members, you're going to also take part in this education. And in the purpose of all that is to help build stability, make sure we're all on the same page as we conduct business, moving the airport forward.
Where are you on that?
I'm on, just the top it says training and stability, but I'm getting ready to move. Yeah, that section. There's information in here as with regard to how do we prepare our employees, how do we portray our public image, crisis management, what our role is in economic development. All of that's listed in here. We have information on social media and how we can expect each other to conduct ourselves with regard to social media. Moving on, the next section is regarding finance and budget. I think everybody's fully aware that we have fiscal responsibility to the airport as well as the city and the taxpayers in our community. This section kind of outlines how some of the city's finance, budgeting, and accounting are outlined. Our budget process is in here. There's reference to the state statutes requiring regarding municipal law, regarding city or state law regarding municipal budgets, and then other guidelines for purchasing. Caleb, I'll point out to you that when we get to the back of this, there's policy that our airport board will approve any purchases for non-routine expenditures over $1,000. So that's in addition to what state statute and city ordinance requires. The next section, when you get into the appendix, and this gets into, just so you guys have all of it here as reference, it's about halfway through almost halfway. Those are all the ordinances, maybe not all, it's not all the ordinances, it's the ordinance for the Alva Airport Commission. And it goes into more detail what statutes and what ordinances are governing how we act as a commission. Everything in there from operating the airport to aircraft operations on and off the grounds, within hangars, taxiing, all of that stuff is in there in great detail. And I'm sure, the exception of Caleb and I, everybody at the table is familiar with all of that stuff. But Caleb and I have access to it, so we can, if we have questions, we can go in and find it as well, if we can't get a hold of either of you. After the Code of Ordinances, it gets into our specific policies. You'll see our policy on hangars, the T-hangars, the hay barn, the round top, the private built hangars. That's all in there. There's a policy regarding tort claims against the city. That's for a few pages. there's information on, or there's a, this is not something, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe Don, but the conflict of interest disclosure and the meeting sign-in and the executive session documents are coming out of the city's personnel committee recommendations that were approved by city council. If you feel you may have a conflict of interest with anything that's going on our agenda, or otherwise with under the direction of the airport commission, get a hold of this conflict of interest disclosure, and this is the form that will be submitted in order for you to state your conflict, make sure that you're being transparent with where you are in relationship to what the airport's doing. There's a commission meeting sign-in sheet, and it's designed to be used whenever guests of the commission would like to speak at our board meetings, that they sign in and state their name and address and phone number, so that if there's any clarification needed on what they spoke about, it can be obtained. If the paper's video doesn't work, of course. The next page is the Commission's confidentiality agreement for executive session. Executive sessions are held privately because that information is can either be harmful to the Commission or others if it gets out to public, and that could be anything from us talking about personnel matters to discussing a land deal that we're trying to get to go through, and having the details of those type of things out in the public could either hurt us financially or otherwise. And so the protections of executive session are intended to remain confidential, and this is whenever we have an executive session, we'll start signing this, that we're going to hold the topics discussed in confidence, except for the action that's taken in open meeting. The next form is if you receive, or is
That's the issuance of equipment, like what we've done for the
Oh,
city council.
that's the
tablets.
the airport's policy, specific airport policy. No, it is for the tablets, but it could be,
It could be for any equipment that we issue out as a city to all the board members.
Alva Airport social media impression, I don't know. And then we get into several pages of it looks like to me,
These would be the FAA,
FAA
the airport
standards.
stuff, the airport standards that have been adopted through FAA for hand signals and chalking of airplanes and how to tie knots and to secure the plane and things like that.
there is, following that, the fueling policy that was reapproved with changes on October 27th, 2016. After that is also the ramp management policy that was approved at the same time. For anything that deviates from what the FAA guidance is, it's in our policy. Our purchasing limits then for the Alva Airport Fund follow that, and those were approved on May 8th, 2017. And then the rest of the document, I believe, is budget information regarding this current year. So, you may keep the consumer information that was in the black book that came from the Department of Commerce. Again, I'll restate that is not just every answer to everything. You need to dig through it, and if you have specific questions about some demographic information or economic information about our community and our service area, you can find general information in there that could be drilled down further by contacting other entities. It's a standard report that we get from through the Department of Commerce, and so that was available in the black binder. And Dale, if you need that, we can get it to you. I know Paul had it last meeting, Caleb had it last meeting, but I don't know.
I didn't receive it.
We'll make sure to get that. Joe Don, did I leave anything out?
I don't think so.
The intention is to go over the handbook annually and note out any changes that are in the handbook, and hopefully not spend too much time on stuff that everybody already knows, but to do review it annually.
So we probably want to review it again next February. Is that how we want?
Probably.
That'd be a good time.
Well, you will have an update, you will be given updates, once the full budget is approved, you'll be given updates for the current, the next fiscal year, budget. So like in July, we'll have updates to this manual for the budget part that is,
So we can do our reviews in July.
yeah, but, yeah.
What I suggest is we pick a meeting with a light agenda. I mean, if we're heavy on business in July, we might
Right.
push it off till August.
Right, I didn't know if we wanted to establish a
I'd say that
standard time now or wait until.
we can do that. There's nothing prohibiting us from doing that, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just know sometimes we might
Yeah.
prefer to not have it set in stone at a certain date.
Well, when the new vacations come out, that'd be a good time.
Mm-hmm.
We can start there.
Are you entertaining questions or suggestions?
Absolutely.
The first one, next time the permit, would you put page numbers so we can reference it on the same page?
I will do that.
Okay. In the code of ordinances, I realize that we don't do this, right?
We don't do what?
That the commission, are they responsible for this?
The city council has to vote and change on this city ordinance.
Oh, to change the ordinance?
Yes.
The city council would hear recommendation from this board.
There's a couple items in here that are not correct in my opinion. And they have been.
You don't agree with them, or they're incorrect?
Let me read one to you. No aircraft engine shall be started in or run within 100 feet of a hangar or other building. Do you think that's incorrect or against it?
I believe this is the ordinance that has been approved.
All I'm saying is,
I'm not placing judgment on what it says.
I think if we.
If we need to recommend changes to the ordinance, then we need to have an agenda item to discuss that.
Yeah, and that's part of the review process will be to make recommendations.
It's like we had to talk about fueling airplanes in the hangar.
well, when are we gonna do this review? It's been in here for a long time.
It's,
There's another one in here about flight instructors and a white streamer on the
Yeah.
airplane anytime the students out there. I don't believe that.
Terry, this body determines what recommendations we send forward. Nobody's saying not to. So if it needs to be on agenda, we'll put it on an agenda.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's,
But we don't have it on the agenda to debate the topics tonight.
no, I asked if you wanted comments, and then you asked me if it was wrong or if it was my opinion.
And then you asked me if it was my opinion, and I don't have an opinion.
No, I'm asking you, now I know what we need to do.
Okay.
You want it on the agenda, we can change it.
yeah, I think we need to review it and make notes, and then several months down the road, we'll put it on the agenda and do the whole ordinance, because there's, yeah, I agree with you, there's multiple things that are in the ordinance that are outdated. And so we can make a recommendation to the council and let them pass the ordinance, and then it'll be,
Well, that's fine with me, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it needs to be addressed,
yeah.
that's why I brought it up.
Well, when were the codes re-adopted? Because it wasn't always like this. Was that when Brown was here?
This says 94.
Well, the
But I
codes
don't
are
know when-
recodified every year, but I'd have to go back and look to see whenever
Some of this,
any changes were made to the airport section, that was,
because this has happened, I want to say in the recent past, I think since 2000, that some of this has been brought in. I think it was adopted from the state or something else, because this wasn't, well, like, for example, the agriculture aspect in there. That was actually passed in the minutes back in the 70s or 80s and adopted and brought into this. But some of these other ones, I have no idea where they came from. And they were brought in, and we've run into this when we talked about, like, fueling policies and things. There's some things that we can't get around because it's an ordinance. And so we need to review it, but all we can do is make a recommendation to the council, right, to change it?
Well, your recommendation comes with quite a bit of weight. I mean, if you're talking about a code affecting the airport, your recommendation comes with quite a bit of weight. If we're talking about making our ordinance differ from state statute, that's a whole nother story that it probably doesn't carry as much weight.
I understand.
But yeah, as an airport board, our recommendation to city council is likely going to carry some weight with council to go ahead and approve whatever changes in ordinance we think are best. That's why we have these boards and commissions, to, make sure that the city's functioning properly. And then I do think it's good that we find the things that we need to change about our ordinances, and that's why it's good that we review them, so that at least it's put in front of us every year, so that we know what we need to. We may not get them all done in the span of 1 year, and every year might be something different that comes up that needs to change. But yeah, it needs to be in front of you, and we do need to bring it up. We need to discuss it as an agenda item on another agenda, though.
Anybody have anything else?
So on that note, I would say, let's make everybody go home and make a list. Get that to Joe Don so that we can get it on an agenda. And I don't know, Chairman, you might see it appropriate to appoint a committee to look at some of them, or before it comes back to the whole commission.
Yeah, well,
But this is our job, is to set the policies for this airport.
yeah, we'll think about that a little bit and decide what we think's the best course of action to take. But it needs to be a month or two down the road where we can review these ordinances and make some notes and things. So, if there's not anything else,
No, I'm done.
okay. Then we'll go to item 7, discussion and action on the repairs and painting of the airport terminal. It's carried over from the last meeting. Item was tabled.
Didn't have any quotes to review.
forgive me, I do not know what went out with the agenda. Did you have, the quotes? I've got 3 quotes. Those are not provided as part of the agenda, okay. We've got 3 quotes based on the airport's decision to repair and replace soffit on the east entryway, replace any rotted fascia board, replace 12 rotted window bottom trim, scrape and repaint all window trim, and power wash and repaint the siding. I've got quotes from Kathy's Painting, Chez Delis Painting, and AZ Construction on each one of those items. Just if we look at the cost of them for materials and labors, we got Kathy's Painting at $4,805.81. Chez Delis Painting at $5,600. and A to Z Construction at $12,790. As I was looking at these, it looks like they addressed each one of the areas that we asked them to look at, and we'd be happy to pass these around for everybody, each one of the board members to look at, but wouldn't have any issue right now with recommending the lowest. Kathy's Painting is the lowest and best bid at $4,805.81 for materials and labor.
Anybody have experience with any of them?
Do we give time frame on those?
Do you,
Time frame on job completion, how long?
that is not, I don't have that information. As I would say, once it is, if somebody is approved, we will sit down with them, we'll get tonight we will get a, outline of the time that, when they come start, when they'd be finished. And be able to communicate that back to the board via email or something along those lines, so that you had that information.
Any questions, discussion?
That's quite a disparity. They all bid on the same thing?
Yep.
I have experience with one of them, and the disparity doesn't surprise me. I wouldn't have any reservations going with the lowest, best bid though.
Are they, did you say they all addressed all the
They
same issues?
they addressed everything that was outlined as far as the repair of the soffit, the replacement of the fascia board, the repair of the window bottom trim, scrape and paint, repaint all the window trims and power wash and repaint the siding.
So they're all the same?
Yes, sir.
And there's what, 5,000 different?
They're between the lowest and,
Almost eight.
Huh?
8.
yeah,
Was there any, did they specify what kind of paints they were gonna use or anything?
Yeah, that's a good question.
no, none of them specified the types of paint that they would be using.
Did we specify what we
We
wanted?
did not request a specific paint.
Did they specify whether they were brushing, rolling, spraying? How are they going to apply the paint? Did they specify that?
They don't specify, just say paint.
I'd like to say, doing construction work and stuff in the past, it's probably a $6,000 job. So your low bid, that might be questionable as to what kind of work you're gonna do. The high bid is insane. So just throwing that out there.
I would not be opposed to either of the two low bids.
Anybody want to make that motion?
Who were they again?
Well, Kathy's Painting,
Was the low?
$4,805.81. Shada Lee's Painting at $5,600. A to Z Construction at $12,790. And just as a matter of record and as to keep us in line with the bidding process, if you accept anything, if you were to accept the Shada Lee, for example, over Kathy's Painting, we need to specify why we are doing it, because it is not the lowest cash bid. It could be the best bid, but we need to be able to verbalize why it is the best bid.
I'd like to look at the bids if possible. Have a look at it.
I just, as far as the kind of paint, I just noticed Shea de Lee
Whatever you want.
did put on here that they would be using Valspar paints.
That's the,
Lay down with the paint. Doesn't specify what type.
Okay, this is itemized, this is why we've got a more accurate, probably.
I'm worried the materials are probably not sold on that, so it'd be accurate.
This one's recalking the sidewalk.
From sidewalk.
Remove caulking from sidewalks.
Oh,
Clean all
is that
joints.
just up against the building? I don't know. That's excessive.
It'd be nice if it had these before the meeting.
If we get over here, I'd like to see itemized to some point.
Did the other ones call out priming the siding? And then paint?
This is.
Is there priming on that one, Terry? Priming?
Just a sec. Doesn't mention priming.
It's just paint. Yeah, so there's no priming to it.
I move that we approve Shady Leaves painting for $5,600, the lowest best quote, which includes priming.
Any discussion?
Well, I'm concerned about quality of materials, because we didn't specify any materials, we don't know what they say they're just gonna replace it with what? You know, I mean, if it's a pine fascia board and replace it with masonite, well, we get what we want. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm concerned with the disparity of bids that we have here, the quality of the repairs that we get. And I have no experience with any of these.
I'm just gonna say, I'm not concerned. I mean, like I said, I made the motion, but, I don't think that, well, we'll just tell them they have to go back with the same materials up there. That's kind of what we asked them to do in the first place. If we wanted them to come in and cover everything with metal, that'd been different, but we didn't. If they've got to replace something, they need to replace it with what it was there or better. And still match the rest of the building. And I think we can hold them accountable for that standard.
And you said that standard was specified when we requested the bids?
Well,
I think it'd been implied.
I'd be implied.
Implied.
Yeah.
Assume.
When the documentation I've got does not have it specified anywhere on it, but I'd say that it would be implied we're gonna go back with like material.
Just my opinion, I would say if they can provide us with itemized out kind of what the materials would be, what the cost would be, would give us a little bit more knowledge of knowing what we'd be looking at, so there's not any discrepancies going forward. With any of the work, anything that's put back in there, we don't have any issues to.
This, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe Don, is this hard? This is a quote or is this an estimate?
These are all quotes,
Says proposal.
proposal. I'd say this is the price we were gonna pay.
Unless
They came back with a change, unless they came back and said, hey, okay, we'd have to approve some sort of change order to it.
Anybody want to second it?
Guys, we gotta do something.
I'm not just gonna something, I think
I mean,
either as a board, we need to write out what we want better, or, right now, I'm not comfortable with the disparity that we have in here, and me not being familiar with any of these companies that's doing the work, and the vagueness that's written into the vagueness that they wrote it out with. To me, it's vague, everybody else may not feel that way, but that's my position. I wouldn't have a job done with that vagueness. So on good conscience, I can't vote to let them do the terminal out. But that's me.
and it's got enough information for me to feel okay about it. The work I've had approved at the homestead recently, it's not been fully detailed out and it's been satisfactory.
I'm okay with the amount, I just wanna see what the products are. I mean, that was my only, just my experience with construction, knowing what the products are, that's the only thing I'd want to see.
So.
If that's okay.
Nobody's gonna second? Motion dies with a lack of second. Do we need to take some other action on that?
Well,
you
you either need to reject all bids or what do you gotta do?
Well, it's just the agenda items, discussion and action on the repairs and painting of the airport terminal. So,
Okay, we can make a second motion of some kind, either
the first
Table
one,
it,
the
or
first one died for
require more
lack of a
information?
motion, so if there was a second motion, I'm just listening to you. And if there would be a motion to clarify, form a small committee to clarify the specs, the specifications, and detail them out more specifically and rebid the project.
Would you be okay if we sought clarification and they were coming back with like products and materials
Yeah,
at that price?
equal to or better than.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had sent this out or whatever, the keywords are equal to or better than.
Can we do a contingency approval? Based on,
I don't think that we should do a contingency approval because you're leaving it up to, in it needs to be specific at the board on what you're approving.
You got a motion?
Not yet, he's trying to work it out. Say what?
I mean, if you wanted to try to keep these bids, we can go back for clarification and resubmit the bid and at a later date, either with a special meeting or the next meeting. If you'd like clarification on the bids, as far as the types of material that are going to be used, that can be done.
If we just get clarification that they're equal to or better than, then we can take a vote on it. I mean, I would be comfortable voting.
Thank you. I was gonna say, we could just call them. We've got phone numbers for two of them.
But if you want to table it, for further clarification, we can get that clarification and resubmit either call a special meeting for it or.
None of them had a start date on there, right?
No.
None of them has a start date, because they're not gonna wanna start right now anyway.
Too cold.
Well, I move that we table this for clarification of the existing bid.
Clarification being that, we confirm that they're using
The materials. and
light
material.
or better materials
Yeah,
as existing.
take clarification of materials for use.
And if that's your motion, I'll second it.
That's my motion.
We got a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Kinsey,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Logston,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Mossberg.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go on to the next item. Item number 8, remarks and inquiries by airport board members. Anybody have anything? No? Next item we'll go to is remarks and inquiries by citizens. I think April has an update that she'll give us.
And there's an updated, they finally came through, Gail was helped, with lining out the runway for the race. And that's the second page, first page in there. So that's gonna be the final that they're gonna go by. The timers will be down in line with plain plastics. They have to be away from everybody else. Sue Hughes out of Winoka is going to be the head timer for the event. Paul and Alex and I are pretty close together with all this stuff. I put down kind of a list of the stuff that we've got to do that we've kind of penciled in on one of those pages. It's color coded as into plain plastics, Kinsey's, the city kind of umbrella, whether it be Greg, Alex, you know, the trash cans, the whole city stuff is kind of just put in there. That is basically for Tuesday. I've already got, the porta potties are all rented already. They will arrive on Monday. We're going to do 8 of them. 7 of them will be normal. 1 of them will be handicapped. We're gonna kind of spread it along. That way we've got it for the whole week. Because it didn't matter if we just dropped a couple for like the Tuesday show and then brought the rest of them out for the rest of the week. It was all gonna be the same price. So we just went ahead and they'll drop them all off on Monday. They'll pick them up on Sunday. Randy came by last week. He's a stunt pilot. He's gonna go ahead and fly on Friday and Saturday. I had a couple calls today from a gentleman who actually worked the air race in Midland, Texas last year. And he's got 4 or 5 people that are wanting to come up and help. This happened after I talked to you. So that was kind of exciting. So he's going to bring a bunch of people up with that. Kind of started working on the banners. They're kind of just so you kind of have an idea of what we're going to do with the logo. This is what we're gonna do for all the way across as far as the classic goes. The blue didn't come out right. It's gonna be a lot lighter blue. We're gonna use that on all the logos as far as the shirts and everything. And then this will be kind of like what the best of show's gonna be. And we're wanting to make it to where it can, like, the pilots can hang them off of their planes during the show and then take them home and put them on their hangars when it's all said and done. I've got about 30 people that have already committed to flying in and spending the night on Friday night. They're pretty excited. The 177s, a bunch of them are coming, and they're all coming from as far away as Virginia, and there's no telling how many of them will show up. The Oklahoma Corporation, or the Oklahoma Aeronautical Department will be here for a booth, and the Oklahoma Commerce people are going to put up a booth. They came and talked to us the other day, and they're really excited. So we've probably got about 10 people that have already offered, that are already ready to come. Rosen's coming, Sims is coming. We've talked to Trade a Plane, and they're talking about coming. So we're pretty excited about the ones that are wanting to come. So we're just kind of trudging on.
Great.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
What are the dates on that?
Okay, the air race is going to be June 19th, which is a Tuesday. Oh, one more thing. I need to get all of the pilots' names and addresses so I can try to get a letter out to them this month in case they have any kind of questions. I haven't got that yet, but if we could get that, then we can get something out to them so that they know what's going on. We'll just go ahead and lay out on agendas because they have the right to know what's going to be going on during that week.
And it's the 22nd, 23rd, or 21st. It's the 19th through the 22nd. It's a Tuesday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Any other citizens have any remarks or comments? If not, I guess we'll adjourn.